want to talk to you today about shawms and pitch. We're quite often asked what pitch we build our instruments at, and in theory, of course, the answer is that most of them are at 440, and occasionally we might aim for a high pitch instrument, 465, 460, 466, depending who you ask. But the longer answer is that it's not that simple, because every time you adjust your reed, every time the climate changes slightly, things move. And so if we're building instruments that are based on originals that are found in museums, we never really know what pitch they were supposed to be at. Even more so when there's no staple and there's no reed with that original instrument. So it's not like recorders where you can blow down it and you've got a pretty good idea. And the other thing is that the pitch on these instruments is incredibly flexible, and that's what I want to talk to you about, especially today, and to demonstrate to you. So I'm going to take my alto shawm here. This is the Renaissance one with the bell on it. And I'm just going to bend some notes to start with. I've put my electric tuner up there, which means that you can read it, and for most of this video I can't, so I'm kind of fishing in the dark here. I don't have perfect pitch. I'm just going to show you, for starters, if I take my 3-finger note, my D on this G shawm, how far I can bend it down and how far I can bend it up. Let's try the same with the 6-finger note. So we've got quite a lot of movement there. And there are two things I'm doing in order to vary the pitch. One is that I'm squeezing more or less with my lips, and the other is that I'm blowing harder or blowing softer. Obviously, the harder you blow, the sharper the pitch goes, and the more you squeeze, the sharper the pitch goes. Now you can use these flexibilities, in fact, to make dynamics. So if you put those two things going in opposite directions, you can actually make your shawm quieter or louder. Very useful for phrasing, not so useful for playing whole sections quietly because it's quite tiring. But if I take that D again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the volume by squeezing with my lips, which would make it go sharper, but I'm also going to reduce the breath pressure, which would make it go flatter. And that should bring the volume down instead, and then I'll reverse that process to bring it back up. Dropped out. So we have got a bit of a use for this flexibility in the instrument as well. Now the other thing is that if I was to give this instrument without changing anything to any other person, you can almost guarantee that the pitch at which they would naturally play it will not be the same as what I naturally play. I know for a fact that with double reed instruments I've got what I call quite a sharp face. I tend to play slightly sharper than the average person on most instruments, and so actually when I'm setting instruments up for customers, I quite often set them so that I can easily play them about 20 cents sharp. And I know then that the customer will not have to work so hard to get up to the pitch that they want. However, it can be more extreme than that, and it varies usually from instrument to instrument, person to person, and again, like I say, also depending on temperature. So it's good to know what to do if you find that within your band you're the lower pitched person, shall we say, the flat person or the sharp person. So if you're the person who always finds that their pitch is a little lower than those around them, the simplest thing to do is to close down your reed, and I've demonstrated that on my reed maintenance videos. Or failing that, actually cut a little bit off the tip of your reed to make it shorter. If that doesn't work, then you want to think maybe a bit more extreme, maybe try out even a shorter staple to make the instrument higher. If there are certain notes on your instrument that are a bit low, you can actually start messing around with finger holes and opening those up, but I'd make that the last resort because it's a lot harder to put back. If you're the person who's sharp, then you can, for starters, pull out the staple. You can open up the reed. You can get a longer reed. So if you start making your reeds from the unfinished ones, like I've been doing on my reed videos, then you can leave it a millimetre or two longer to start with and cut bits off until you get to the place you want to be. That's what I do for my own reeds for myself. The reeds I make for myself are quite often just that little bit longer than the ones I make for my customers, because I know that I tend to play sharp. And then as a last resort, again, you could even ask for a slightly longer staple. Now some instruments are more flexible than others, so just to finish off I'm going to take the sopranino shawm that I've got here, and I'm going to play its basic scale. It's an F sopranino, so I'm going to play an F major scale, but I'm going to try and do it 3 times. So I'm going to pitch it kind of in the middle, around about 440 the first time, and then I shall drop it as far as I can, and it will be almost a semitone, so you'll get a scale almost of E, and then I shall push it up as far as I can towards F sharp. So I might even give myself a note to start with. Let's have a G off here.